The three core expressions of Wilderness Trail, you have our wheated bourbon, you have our high rye bourbon, and we have our rye whiskey. Our bourbons are very unique in that they have essentially the same mash recipe as each other, but one is a wheated bourbon, one is a rye bourbon. So each of these bourbons has 64% corn, 24% of either wheat or rye, and then 12% malted barley. Most bourbons in the state of Kentucky have over 70% corn. So our recipe for our bourbons is much less corn and much higher amounts of those middle grains like wheat or rye or malted barley. Our wheated bourbon has a lot of the very classic caramel. It's got a lot of cherry notes. Again, this is bottled in bond, so it's 100 proof, a little higher proof than the typical bottling. You know, on the nose, I'm getting a lot of baking spices. This particular bottle, I'm getting a lot of cupcake icing. I'm also getting kind of a little bit of a mintiness here. But again, I'm getting a lot of the classic vanilla, the cherry, the nutmeg, leather, some tobacco, some of the classic flavors of wheated bourbons. Now moving on down to the high rye bourbon, most bourbons with rye as the middle grain are made with less than 20%. In fact, a lot of them less than 15%. So this having 24% rye is kind of a new terminology. If it's got over 20% rye, it's considered a high rye bourbon. Let me go in for a little taste here. Still a lot of those cherry notes. I'm getting that vanilla, but I'm definitely getting a lot more of that spice from the rye like we would expect. Our rye whiskey is not a bourbon, it's a rye whiskey, and so it has a very different mash recipe which features majority of rye. 56% rye, 33% corn, and 11% malted barley. Most rye whiskeys have much higher concentrations of rye. So ours offers that little bit of corn, which kind of sweetens it up. But I think one of the most important things about our rye whiskey is it gets kind of to a barrel entry proof. So we go into the barrel at a fairly low proof compared to other distilleries. And when you consider this is bottled in bond, going into the barrel at, 100 or 105, we're coming out of the barrel at, somewhere around 110 proof. So to get to 100 proof, we're doing a very slight dilution. When you consider that some other whiskeys go into the barrel at 125 proof, come out at 130s and the 140s, and then are diluted to 80 or 90, you're just diluting out a lot of that complexity, a lot of that color and richness that you get out of the barrel. We actually call our rye gateway rye because when we taste through the different products, everybody loves bourbon, but when we get to rye, some people are apprehensive about it. I don't know if I'm gonna like that, and it's like, just hold your horses here, let me put this on you, and then next thing you know, that's all they buy is Wilderness Trail rye. It's a very interesting phenomenon. Our bourbons are excellent for drinking neat. Because we don't dilute them a lot in our bottling process, they stand up really well with ice cubes, or if you want to dilute with a little bit of water, maybe a drop or two of water to kind of open it up a little bit. As far as cocktails, I've always been a big fan of the Old Fashioned. That's probably my favorite cocktail to make with bourbon. With the rye whiskey, I'm a Manhattan fan. The Paper Plane is probably one of the newer cocktails that we find that we really like, and actually that's made with Aperol. What I said about our products in terms of the complexity and them standing up due to the lack of dilution really helps them stand up in a cocktail. That's one of the things that I really like about our products.